September, I'm coming out of a reading slump. Unfortunately, I fell into a reading slump at the beginning of October, end of September, after reading that one-star book I read in September that I really forced myself to complete, and honestly I shouldn't have. But anyways, I'm out of my reading slump officially, but that's why I'm saying that I don't really know how to classify October. It was a good reading month, but at the same time I struggled because I was on a reading slump. So let's just get into the books I read, because I'm just rambling right now. Starting with the best ones. So I did have two 5-star reads this month, which I am very excited about, honestly, and I read these back to back. So I was like, okay, I'm on a roll, but then things went downhill from there. They did pick up again though, so there is hope. Anyways, these are the two 5-star reads I read in October. The first one that I read So that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Shwab. B.E. Shwab. B.E. Shwab. I'm so happy I finally got to this book, because it's been years that I want to read it, and I feel like I picked this up at the right time because I was in the mood for a dark academia fantasy vibe, but I didn't want to be in the academia world at that time. So this was perfect because it's not set in academia, but it still gives those dark academia vibes. I wouldn't necessarily call this a fantasy, to be honest. To me, it's more of like a magical realism book. But I know that people refer to it as a fantasy book. I say that to me it's a magical realism book because it's set in the real world and there's no magic system per se. Anyway, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. If you don't know what it talks about, it's the story of this girl who was born in this tiny village in France, and she has one fear in life, and it's to end up like everyone else in her village. So being born there, living their whole lives there, going through the motions, doing like the traditional stuff, and being buried there. She has a yearning to see the world. She has a yearning for adventure, and one day her parents set her up for an arranged marriage and she tries to escape it. That night she makes a pact with basically the devil to be able to live forever, so that she can, be free, independent, go see the world and live enough lifetimes to be satisfied, basically. And in exchange for that, the devil takes the memory of her. So now, every time she meets someone, as soon as they turn around, they forget about her. they completely forget about her and they have to start all over, kind of thing. So she goes on living 300 years of her life like this, and you see kind of the past and the present timeline. You see the past when, like, as soon as she made this deal, what happened, what she did, how she suffered through the motions and everything, how she started to learn, the limits of the curse and how to use it at her advantage. You see her going to Paris, to different places, and she ends up in New York, and that's the present timeline. She lives in New York in the 2010s, if I remember correctly, and one day she finds someone who remembers her, and so the story goes from there. Half of the book really concentrates on her story, the FMC. The other half of the book also gives us a lot of background on the MMC story. There is a bit of a love story in there. There's, I don't want to say a love triangle, but at the beginning you get the vibes of a love triangle, which, like, I'm not gonna say anything about that because it's a spoiler, but yeah, I was quite surprised. I don't know, this book just surprised me. It made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me angry, it made me feel a lot of things. I loved it. I feel like I did give it 5 stars. I didn't get the 5-star feeling while reading it, but I wasn't a reading slump. So this was more of the conscious, reflected upon 5-star read. It was more of an intellectual 5-star. There you go. Because I loved the writing. I cannot wait to read more V. Shwab books now, because I already knew I liked her writing, but in this book it's just so poetic. I don't know, it just transcended all of my expectations. It's so poetic, it's so delicate in a way. It spoke to my soul. So yeah, I really liked the writing. I had a bit of a hard time with how slow the pacing is in this book, because I didn't expect it going into it. I didn't expect it to be like a slice of life sort of narration, but it is. It's a slice of life. You literally follow her on different days, seeing what she does. So it's not like this epic story, but in a way it is. This book is so precious. So precious. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. I never know how to talk about my 5-star reads. I have a really hard time talking about my feelings on 5-star reads, especially if it's one like this where I'm just like, I'm in love with the writing. The story was very delicate, very soulful, and I wouldn't have changed anything in the end. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Shwab. That was our first 5-star read of the month. Moving on, the second 5-star read of this month is a very unexpected one. And I love this book so much, even just thinking about when I read it, thinking about this story. I'm obsessed. I don't know what's going on right now outside, but I guess as soon as a ray of sunshine comes out, everyone goes crazy. But anyways, I wish this book would be turned into a movie. On one hand, it was an unexpected 5-star. On the other hand, I knew I would love it. in a way. I didn't know I would love it, but it was very intriguing. It fascinated me even just by, reading the back and the blurb. So that is terrestrial history by mungo. This book, it is so tiny. It is so tiny, you guys. It's what, I think it's under 300 pages. Yep, it's 246 pages. It could have been like 800 pages. I would have gobbled it up. And I was so happy to just go around with this book, because to me it's so aesthetically pleasing, and I think I said this every time I showed this book, so you're probably tired of me saying it if you keep up with my channel. But yeah, so how do I explain this book? I think the best way for me to describe it is to say that this book is Interstellar meets the series Dark with some elements of the series The 100. Okay, so if you've seen all of them, you probably get the vibes. If you haven't, you should. But to explain it, so Interstellar, Christopher Nolan, I think we all know what I'm talking about. In apocalyptic times, guy gets recruited to go see if there's another livable planet, and discovers a bunch of stuff about string theory and stuff. Okay, Interstellar. In a nutshell, because Interstellar is my favorite movie ever, and there's way more into it. But Dark, the series Dark, if you have never seen it, it's on Netflix. It's a German series, I think, originally, and it's about parallel universes and time travel, but it's very dark. It's very gothic. It's borderline horror. The series follows kind of the story of this family, and the whole time you're watching it, you have no clue what the hell is going on. Okay, you have no clue what the hell is going on. You have no clue who is who. Like, at some point it gets really confusing until you figure out that piece of the puzzle that finally clicks in and gives you the whole picture, right? And that is what I felt reading this book. I felt, to an extent, because in Dark it's really, really intense, whereas in here you kind of get very explicit hints to the link between certain characters, but it had never been said explicitly on paper. So when it's said explicitly on paper, you kind of spiral and you go like, okay, but what does that mean? What is gonna happen? twist, but it's one of those moments when something clicks and you're just questioning the whole book now. So that is the setting, that is the context of what this book feels like. Interstellar meets Dark, the series. There are some elements of The 100, which is a series. It's like a sci-fi dystopic series, if you haven't seen it, where apocalyptic as well, where basically the planet Earth is not survivable anymore. So some people go live onto the International Space Station, the ISS, but they make it into like a whole thing, you know, so they are living out in space, and at some point they get some signals from Earth that mean that it could be livable again, so they send 100 of their prisoners, criminals, down to Earth to see what's going on and report back and see if humanity can go back to Earth. And there they find like a bunch of stuff. So there were some elements of this, the dystopic side of The 100, where, you know, there's people at the top keeping information, you know, kind of thing. But it's secondary, kind of. Now, I had to say all of that because otherwise I wouldn't know how to explain the book. But let's get to the plot. What is this book about? This is a sci-fi climate fiction. It's not really apocalyptic, but it gives those vibes because we are in the future and finally ecosystems are caving. Climate change got to that point that there's kind of no return, right? And you follow this family. You have the grandma, who is like a fusion, like atomic fusion expert scientist, and she's now older, and she lives in this cottage in Scotland by the coast, and everyone thinks she's gone crazy because she's trying to figure out something about atomic fusion that could kind of save the world. But everyone thinks she's gone crazy, right? Then you have her son, who is trying to get into the government to try and bring change, and his daughter. So you follow like different generations, right? It's a family saga kind of thing. And so you have his daughter, who is also a scientist, and then you also follow in the future on Mars a little guy who is born on Mars, right? With all the complications that come with it. He has this urge to go back to Earth to see what it looks like. And it's funny because the people who live on Mars, who came from Earth, are called homers because Earth is home. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but right. So now living on Mars, there's like this older generation that came from Earth and these newer generations who were born on Mars. And this little guy ends up figuring out something, like a lot of things go on. He figures out that there's some of this knowledge that if people on Earth could have it all those years ago, they would have saved the planet, right? And one day they figure out that you can go back in time. So then he goes back to Earth to try to bring this knowledge that he has to the people. I loved the time traveling aspect because what makes it great is that this is told on different timelines. It's not even dual timeline. You have like this older woman timeline, which together. All of them are intertwined. That is where the genius of this book lies. Amazing, amazing work. 5 freaking stars. I don't think this book is for everyone at all. If you have never read sci-fi, this is not a good book to start from, in my opinion. If you do not like different timelines and trying to figure things out for yourself, I don't think this book is for you. But if you do like all of the above, or are curious about it and have read some sci-fi books before, I couldn't recommend this enough, honestly. So yeah, that was Terrestrial History by Joe Mungo Reed. And let's move on, because I've already been sitting here for 50 minutes. Actually, now that I think about it, I lied, because I had 3 5-star rates this month. I finally was able to get my hands on volume 6 of Olympus. I'm reading these binders versions, so I get them from the library. So obviously I had to wait that someone has returned it before I could have it. But this is volume 6. If you know me and you've been catching up with the videos, you know how much I love this series. If this is your first video, you're about to find out. So, Olympus is a graphic novel Greek mythology retelling series that follows like a plethora of characters of the Olympus, but the main plot surrounds Hades and Persephone and their story. Look at how gorgeous the art is. I just love it. I love it. And what I love about these books is, as you can see, there's different colors for different characters. Rachel can just show you emotions so well. I don't know if you can see anything, and don't look too much because it could be a spoiler, but she can show emotions so well. And just like these books, I don't know, they bring so much joy to my month every time I pick up one of them. Obviously, it's a thicker volume. It's a thicker graphic novel in general, but you can read this in one sitting, honestly. And it's just so fun. There is so much yearning. There is so much tension between the 2 main characters. I would check the trigger warnings before getting into the series. They are also written at the beginning, but yeah, I would check them because there are some things that happen and some heavier topics described, but all in all, to me, it's just such a fun time, you know. And this particular volume was also a 5-star, but I feel like it's a 5-star series for me, so I can honestly rate every volume a 5-star. But yeah, in this particular volume there was a bit more tension, a bit more banter also between the 2 main characters. You felt the romance a little bit more compared to other volumes, and things are progressing because I think there's 9 volumes out, so things are progressing, and I just love and adore these characters. I love how, you know, they are Olympus gods, so they are capricious. They just act without without thinking about the consequences. Also, I love the retelling aspect of it, because this is imagined kind of in the real world. If there was like an Olympus of gods, like Hades, he is the CEO of hell, basically, but he's imagined as a CEO, like he has his company and everything, right? So yeah, I really like that aspect of the retelling as well. It's really fun. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, just like, please go read them. This sounds so good. So yeah, I read volume 6 of Olympus. Very happy about it. I already have volume 7 ready to go. And I booked I put a hold on volume 8 for when it gets back to the library, so I cannot wait. At the same time, I don't want this series to be over. But yeah, I love these characters so much. I've grown attached to them very quickly, so it's fun. It's so fun. So yeah, that was Olympus volume 6. So as you could see, I had 3 5-star reads, and I loved and adored every single one of these books. And even if I started a month in a reading slump, I thought I was getting out of it, also thanks to these books, right? But then I almost fell back into my reading slump with this book. So that book is Katabasis, or Katabasis, or however you say that, by R.F. Kuang. This book is a dark academia fantasy about these characters who study at Cambridge, and they study in the field of magic. So they want to become magicians. They are graduate students, and at one point their professor dies. And these two characters both think it's kind of their fault that he died, so they decide to go to hell to try and bring him back. So the premise of this was very interesting to me. I loved the idea of seeing R.F. Kuang's version of hell. And also, since it's dark academia, I usually like dark academia, and I was kind of in the mood for this one, so I just picked it up, you know. And at the beginning, like for the first, I don't know, 30% of the book, I was really enjoying my time. I liked her writing style in particular, even if at times I felt it was a bit pretentious. But I was like, at this point I still don't know if it's her writing style or if it's like the characters simply that were pretentious. But I loved how there were so many references of other literary works like Dante's Inferno, literary references to other works about hell. Because obviously the two characters in question, they did a lot of research before going in hell, you know, to see what they kind of expected, what they could expect. And the first 30% of the book, as I was saying, it was slow to get into. So at the beginning the pacing was slow, but then it started to pick up. When it started to pick up, I was enjoying my time. And also I liked how she was describing hell and her version of hell. I really liked how that worked and everything. Then you hit the third court in hell and everything went downhill from there. Honestly, thinking back to it now, I see that I should have DNF'd this book way earlier than I actually did, because I did end up DNFing this book at the 80% mark. And I can show you, look at that. I had 100 pages left, and I left it there on my shelf, just thinking I will just pick it up just to finish and see how it goes and be able to do some informed hating on this book, okay? But I just couldn't do it to myself. I couldn't do it. So I looked up spoilers on how it ends and DNF'd it. I couldn't bring myself to pick it up and open it up again. To kind of explain how disappointed I was in this book, I have 2 dog spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers on this book, please skip to the next one. I always put the timestamps so you can skip to the next book. But yeah, spoilers incoming. Okay, last call, last alert. There we go. There are 2 main characters in this story. There's Alice and Peter. They are academic rivals. They both are graduate students working under this one professor who dies, and they are trying to revive. But they are academic rivals. You figure out throughout the book that there was something going on between them at some point, and then for different reasons, like they ended up kind of hating each other. And at some point in the book, like halfway, maybe like 60 to 70% into the book, they make peace with whatever happened and with each other, and they are kind of getting to know each other again, right? And you feel that their story is progressing, and that's when you feel like, okay, maybe there is a love story after all in this book, because until that point you're like, I'm not sure there will be, but at that point you're sold. You're like, okay, they're getting to know each other again. It would probably end up with them getting together, right? But he dies, and it's a very stupid death, and his death is handled with a one-liner. There is one sentence. The pacing was all over the place. You start very slow, then you pick it up, then it goes slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. Like some chords, we didn't even see them. It just mentioned she strolls through it to just get to the next one. Completely lost the plot at some point. The pacing was a mess, and the storytelling got lazier and lazier as I went on. Once you hit the third chord in hell, and there are 8 of them, right? The first 2, 3, I don't remember if if it was 2 or 3. The first ones were very original, and I liked how everything was described. We took a lot of time in those 2-3 first courts to, discover them, look around, see if they could find this soul that they're looking for, understand a bit more the dynamics and the mechanics of hell, etc. And then once the third court hits, everything just looks the same. It's like she got lazy with the storytelling and went like, okay, you know what, from this point forward, let's just make it a desert, like desolate place, and that's it, So that was just boring and disappointing because it started out very original, and then it literally felt like she just couldn't care, and it felt like lazy storytelling from that point forward. A lot of things were happening just to drive the plot forward, and we never came back to it. So I gave this book 2 stars, and I feel like I'm being generous, to be honest. And I only gave it 2 stars because of that first, 30%, where I was actually enjoying my time. It's Katabasis by Kuang, unfortunately. Last book. Well, I guess I should have talked about Katabasis last because it's the worst book I read this month, since I was going best to worst. But I needed you to feel what a roller coaster of emotions this month was, right? Starting it on a reading slump, finding some 5 stars, having fun reading again, and then slowly, unfortunately, losing my mind with this book, and almost slumping again, only to actually pick up a book that was a good book that pulled me officially out of the reading slump. As I was saying before, I had this need and desire to read a fantasy romance, and that need in my brain was not being scratched. Right, it was not being scratched, so I was like, okay, I need to pick up a book that is explicitly marketed as a romantasy and go from there. But that book is A Dance of Lies by Brittney, and I'm really happy I read this because it's on my 10 before the end as well. So this is the first book in a new romantasy series, and let me tell you, A Dance of Lies, it is not a lie, okay? The title doesn't lie because there was a lot of dancing and there was a lot of lies in this book, which was hilarious and I loved it. So basically this book follows, I already forgot her name, Vasily, who was a dancer in this king's court, right? Until one day the king frames her for murder and sends her in the dungeon, and she is imprisoned for 2 years. believe, like for years anyway, and she doesn't have a lot of space to move, and she can't do much in her cell, so that kind of deteriorates her whole body, right? And though that is explained like that in the book, there is an author's note at the beginning of the book where the author explains that it's actually inspired by her own chronic illness. So now her body is deteriorating, and the king pulls her out of her prison to kind of offer a deal where she would have to get back into dancing and go perform at this annual gathering of different kingdoms and kind of spy on his behalf. So she would go in as a dancer to be able to, infiltrate different courts and see what's going on and kind of help him with something that's very mysterious. She gets like day by day instructions about what to do and who to spy on, etc. So if she agrees to this deal, he will free her and completely clear her name. So she accepts the deal. There's a lot of court intrigue, which I love. Chef's kiss. There's a lot of dancing. The performances she does are described down to, the attire they wear, which I really, really appreciated. As I said many times in this channel, I knew I would enjoy this book because I knew from other reviews that dancing was really a big component of it, and as a dancer myself, I love to see that, and you don't see it in many books, so I loved that aspect of it. There's this sort of love triangle going on at some point. This is a slow burn. There's a lot of tension between these two characters until the very last chapters. Nothing really happens, even in terms of admitting feelings and stuff. And then when it does, you're hit with a plot twist and this massive cliffhanger at the end that gave me very much Empyrean cliffhanger vibes. Empyrean series, especially Iron Flame cliffhanger vibes, and if you know what I mean, you know. So there's this massive cliffhanger, and the ending wrecked me. I loved it. I ended up giving it four stars. So yeah, Atoms of Lies by Brittney. So there we are. They are the books I read in October. There you go. Let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought of them. I love to see how different people have different opinions on books. So let me know if you found any 5 stars in the month of October. I found 3, which is amazing. 3 out of 5 is huge. I honestly cannot wait for my November reading month. I've already finished the book. I'm filming this on the 2nd of November, and I've already finished the book, and it was a 5-star. Spoiler, so I cannot wait to have a great TBR and reading month to look forward to. If you want to see my TBR for November, check out the description. So there we go. Those were the books I read in October. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to click like button and subscribe if you're new here. Join our Bookish family. I would love to have you here. I hope you will have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and see you in the next one.